Hey, everybody. Uh, Hope you're doing well. And welcome back. And wow, I guess welcome back to me too, because I've been gone. I've been away for almost, for over 3 weeks, as you know, and was there visiting Kanha Shantivanam, which is world headquarters for Heartfulness, which is a large ashram outside of Hyderabad in India. My wife and I went, and we were there for, as I said, a little over 3 weeks, and it was just oh wow, what a magnificent place, and what a magnificent trip, and all the people, old friends and new friends, and just wow, it just was such a I can't even I can't even express just how amazing it is. This place, Kanha, is it's like a it's like paradise. I think if I'm gonna show some pictures in a little bit, but I'm gonna sum it up. It's paradise, both on the outer plane and the inner plane too. These the way you feel when you're there, you can just feel that spiritual um, presence and connection. So strong, it's so palpable. And on the outside, of course, it's just beautiful flowers and so many things to see and do. So anyway, that was a wonderful trip. And as probably some of you have noticed, I'm back, and I'm back with a new name for this show. And it's it's a new name, but it's not a new name for me. It's actually kind of where I started, my roots. I had a show probably 3-4 years ago on Facebook, which was a live show, and it was called Joy in Real Time. And I think I did about 50 episodes. And that name has just always stuck with me. It just always feels right, because we talk a lot about we talk a lot about joy and happiness. When we speak of heartfulness, we talk a lot about joy and happiness. But we have to share that for it to really be something meaningful to people. We can't just talk about joy and happiness. We need to be feeling that ourselves and living that in our own lives. So, okay, so I want to say hello to some people. Let me check the chat and see who's tuning in today. So, Vidya, good morning. Mahima, nice to see you as well. Anil, welcome. Appreciate you all taking the time to be here today. And so I'm going to talk today about something that's, how can I put this? So, I'm always trying to find ways to simplify how to express what heartfulness is. And today's topic is one of those ways. So, heart, head, and hands. Okay, so where does this heart, head, and hands come from? Well, Daji has mentioned this phrase a few times, and it's an old saying, and it's actually head, heart, and hands. But of course, I'm always like to put the heart first, so I call it heart, head, and hands. But this really is a mirroring the three yogas that are, a basis of the heartfulness method. Besides, there's 4 yogas, and the main one is Raja Yoga, which is the meditation that we do. Okay, so heartfulness, for those of you who don't know, is a new version of what is known as Raja Yoga or Royal Yoga, the king of yogas. I like Royal Yoga better. So when we think about the other 3 yogas that we have, that we focus on in heartfulness, they are actually Bhakti Yoga. And if we think of Bhakti, it's Daji's clarified that it doesn't mean devotion in the traditional sense. I think for me, it means really taking your path, your own journey seriously, and being committed to that in a big way. That to me is Bhakti Yoga. So when we think of bhakti yoga, oh, that's yoga of the heart. So there we have the first one, heart. The second one is jnana yoga, which is yoga of knowledge. That when we're talking of knowledge in this context, we're not talking about information. We're talking about spiritual wisdom that dawns on us. And look, we gain some of that. We gain some of that by reading a small, very small amount. But in my opinion, most of this type of jnana knowledge is something that we come to from, it comes from within us. It comes from deep inside of us. And it also comes from our life experiences. So we can say this idea of knowledge, we can equate that with the head. So we have heart, head, and the last yoga is karma yoga. And this is the yoga of action. And here in the West, this idea of karma has been around for a long time, but it's kind of a maybe not fully understood here when we say, "Oh, it's your karma." It generally means that like a tit for tat or an eye for an eye. In other words, if you do something to hurt someone, well, something bad in that way is going to come back to you and get you. This is how karma is understood in the West. But karma is actually, what it's talking about is action. Karma is talking about action. And whenever we take action, there's also results of our action. So this is where the idea stems from. So it has a broader meaning overall, but this equates to hands. If we're going to take action, hands, when we do anything in life, we're utilizing our hands. So this idea of heart, head, hands. So simple to understand. And the first two of these, heart and head, these are generally based on receiving. Okay. I mean, not fully, but you'll get where I'm going with this in a second. So when we think of the heart and we think of the head, there's some input involved, okay, for us. And when we think of hands, that's sort of an output. Okay, it's the taking of action. And I found in my own experience that the first two are pretty easy, because when it comes to the heart, and we think about the heart's qualities, love, compassion, intuition, so many things. There was a receiving there. And when we meditate in this heartfulness practice, it's all about, we're receiving something. We're receiving something through the transmission. And we could call the transmission grace, or we could call it many different things. But when we experience the transmission, we feel like we're a recipient. We're receiving something. So when we think of the head part, the knowledge part, again, we're receiving knowledge. We're receiving knowledge from inside. We're receiving knowledge from our daily interactions that we have, from our life experiences that we have. So the first two are pretty easy that we're receiving. But now let's look at hands. Hands is a totally different situation. Okay. For those who are on a spiritual path and really serious about their spiritual journey, inevitably, you come to a point where you just know that you have got to give back in some way. All right. And this percolates up deep from inside. And I think that everybody who I've met in heartfulness, who's been in it for some time, they're givers. Okay. We've received a lot, and now we want to share that in turn. not as a way of giving back, but just as something that's just the right thing to do. And I think that this is the most difficult aspect of heartfulness as an overall method or an overall way of life, is that we have trouble finding, how do we give back? How do we give back? Well, you know, for me personally, um, I had to find ways to do that. And so, as many of you know, I took up writing on Quora, which is an international question answer website. I started writing about spirituality, and I was able to interact with, thousands of people actually. And that has been for me a very um, active way of giving back. And then I, do a lot of sessions online, like I do this Monday session. And so this is something that sort of came about, and it's another way of giving back. And so, it took a lot of work to do these things. I had to carve out a niche, so to speak. And not only that, but I had to acquire a lot of knowledge in order for me to go live the first time online. And I know we're all used to Zoom and things like that, but when you're doing a more of a broadcast type show like this, it's there's a lot to it. Okay, for one, I spent a year studying video. I studied what is required, because when you get into this, you want to do something that's high quality. So I studied the video aspect. I studied all about lighting, and I spent many months fixing up my little room here. It's a bedroom. I mean, there's no bed in it now, but now it's a video studio. And I spent months and months figuring out, just getting a look, something that looked pleasant, figuring out getting good quality video and a nice looking set and getting the lighting so it's right. So all of this was part of the hands part, is that I knew that I wanted to do this. I knew that this felt right for me to do it, but then I had to actually take the action to make this happen. And this is where I think this is the one thing that I think needs to be discussed, amongst our friends who are in heartfulness and at our local centers. I mean, this aspect of, how do we give back? How do we do it? And we may have our own ideas about how to do that, and they may be really unusual ideas. I can tell you, one time I was sitting with a few people talking with Daji, and we were in New Jersey, and we were in his small room there, and there was just about 5 of us total. And out of the clear blue, he said, if you ever get some really wild idea, something that seems even a little crazy idea, he said, don't dismiss that. Present that, because maybe there's something to it. So even at that time, and even to this day, Daji's really open to the fact that, we need to explore new and different ways of taking action and letting others know that this heartfulness exists, and they can have this same wonderful inner experience that we're all having. That's part of our sharing. So that's part of head, heart, and hands. It's the hands part that we need to, be bold with and feel courageous about. So I'm talking about this today for a reason, and that reason is to hopefully inspire you. I want to inspire you to think about this, and I want to inspire you to have fresh ideas, and I want to inspire you to not be afraid to explore those things. Okay, and just so we can, find new ways of sharing what we're receiving, what our heart's receiving, what our head's receiving, sharing that with the rest of the planet, really. Okay. So just another pause here. A bunch of other people have joined in. Bhutankara, Piyush, welcome. Rachita, Murugasan, wait a minute. Nivid, Nivita, I can't pronounce your name, but anyway, I'm trying. Muralidharan, Sajatha Lakshmi, Saroja, welcome, and Anil, welcome. So Anil, you've asked a question, and that's okay. And look, when I do these live shows here, I always have a theme, but I'm very open to questions. I'm willing to take up questions too. So the question here is, how do you think we can convey any idea and to whom? Well, it's not that it's not that we have to go out and look for people to convey an idea to. I think what happens is that we have to give some shape to it. So if you feel in your heart that you can speak about what we do, okay, and speak about it in your own words. Don't be repeating the masters and reading out of the books. Don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. That's never convincing to anybody. You speak from your own personal experience. This is what people really want to hear and what they can relate to. And at first, it's a little frightening to do that, but once you start, you'll find that the words start coming. And I always say a little prayer before I give a talk to a college group or anything I'm doing in public, and even online. And the prayer is something like, let whatever words I say, be pleasing to you, something along those lines. And I've always done that. And so I encourage you to, offer up a little prayer and allow the words to come that people need to hear. And you'll see that those words do come and it feels very natural. But look, if you're in school, you can set up a one-day workshop and talk about heartfulness meditation. You can just talk about meditation, and then you can add heartfulness in as the meditation that you do. You can talk about, what the meditative practice, how it's benefited you in your studies, in your school life. And you should also talk about the difficulties, because look, we can't just go out and talk about heartfulness and say, oh, heartfulness, everything is perfect and great. And, I feel good all the time and I'm full of joy and happiness and all that. This is just not the case. we all know that. That's just not true. So being a meditator and being a heartfulness meditator isn't a cure for life's problems. But what it does do is it gives us a nice spiritual consistency, and it gives us a nice spiritual base inside ourselves that we can operate from. And so generally speaking, we feel more centered and less given to all of the, ups and downs in life. You feel a little bit more centered, but we still go through all of those things. I've had a whole lifetime of so many ups and downs. And I don't know how many of you have had a chance to watch the interview that I just did with Hill Dog. He calls himself Hill Dog, but it's Rudy Singh, which he videotaped at Kanha. If you haven't seen it, it's on the Heartfulness Community channel, and it's under the Kanha cast. And it's an hour and 10-minute interview that Rudy did with me. And in there, I share a lot of those difficulties and hardships in my personal life and how I overcame those things. And so I invite you to take a look at that. Okay, Ankita, welcome. Shabna. Zilda, welcome. Swati. Kalapa. Yana. Yana, it's really great to see you in Kanha. I was really, really happy to see you, I have to say. That made my day. Okay, so look, what I want to do now is, first of all, I have to have another sip of tea. All right. But for those of you who follow me on Facebook, and if you don't, you're welcome to put in a friend request, and, I'll try and answer that. Helena, hi, nice to meet you as well. But what I'm going to do now is if you're not following me on Facebook, then you have not seen what I'm going to show right now. I'm going to do a little photo review of my trip to Kanha for anyone who's been thinking about going, and you haven't been there yet. And even for those of you who have been there and know how beautiful it is, I think you'll enjoy these photos too. So let's see. Hopefully this will work just fine. Okay, so Kanha has the world's largest meditation hall, and it's enormous. And I believe it can hold 100,000 people. And it was made with these giant curved beams, which, to my surprise, I found out that they had brought all of this machinery on site when it was just barren land. And they actually made all of these beams right on site and built the whole thing. Yeah, it was actually, it's incredible when you see the whole thing, just how vast it is. One morning, as I was leaving the meditation hall, it was we had a 6:30 a.m. meditation, and as I'm leaving the hall, I'm passing by these bougainvillea. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, bougainvillea, something like that, flowers, and the sun was coming up, and oh my gosh, I just, this was a photographic opportunity, and it was just such a beautiful moment. Just the freshness of the morning, the chill of the morning, and the warm sun just peeking up over the trees and lighting up these flowers from behind. I mean, wow, what a photographic moment. It was so beautiful. Okay, so there's something there at Kanha called the Yatra Garden. And the Yatra Garden was conceived and designed by Daji. And this garden is pretty vast. You can spend a good hour or two easily going through it. And basically, you walk through, it's very beautiful. And you walk through, and there are different points or places that you stop. And each of those places corresponds to a spiritual chakra or point in our system. And Daji has charged these places in such a way that if you just close your eyes there, you can feel the condition of that particular point. It's quite amazing. It's really something. And all of us who went through there, we all said the same thing. I mean, many people were just brought to tears at a certain chakra, that they were resonating with at that time. And when I got through to point 13, there's a big statue of Babaji there. And I sat and meditated there. And oh my gosh, it was one of the most profound meditations that I had while I was there at Kanha. So anyway, about this photo. So when you first enter the Yatra Garden, there's an enormous dome structure. And unfortunately, I'm not showing the dome, just me sitting on the outer edge of it. And when you stand inside this dome, it's sort of inverted. And any noise you make in the middle, it magnifies it like 1,000 times. And if you stand in the middle and you just hum or do om, the space, it's magical. I mean, the sound sounds like it's coming from within yourself. It's just an amazing experience. So do check that out when you go there. And as I was going through the Yatra Garden, I just saw this bicycle and I just thought, oh, that's wonderful. I wish I had that bike while I was there to ride around on. In the Yatra Garden, here was another photo I took, again with the morning light coming back through from behind the flower. It was so beautiful. And of course, when you're there, you're going to meet a lot of friends and family, new friends and family, and old friends and family. And I mean, does this look like a family photo or what? I mean, we were having such a great time. And across from the canteen area, there's all these coconut trees. And every day, that's where I went after satsang, go and get a cup of coffee, sit under these trees, and then you just wait to see who shows up, and people would just show up, and we would start having these wonderful conversations. Beautiful experience. The other thing that happened while we were at Kanha was that a friend of ours, his name is Chef Vijay Sadhu. He's a pretty renowned chef and award-winning chef, actually. And he had arranged to put on a special dinner. He called it a Sufi dinner. And it was a fundraiser. And so this was held up on top above the canteen. There's a little restaurant called Fausto's. And you can get pizza and pasta up there. But this night, he arranged this beautiful feast. And this was one of the dishes. It was like a 7-course meal. It was really incredible. This was one of the dishes that he had created. And the food was just so good. And here's a picture of us with Chef Vijay. He's just an amazing guy. So I talked about the domes, and this is the fellow, and I'm forgetting his name, maybe Rama something or other. I could be wrong, but I'm forgetting his name. But this is the fellow who is responsible for building those domes, all out of brick. And there's no supporting beams inside. It's the pressure of the brick themselves that hold this dome ceiling in place. He's an amazing guy, and you can see in his eyes, this is the Kanha effect. This is how you start to look when you're there for a while. And more friends, a lot of whom all of them I've known from the States for many years. This is an old friend of mine, Ajit, who I knew from the Babaji Memorial Ashram in Chennai. We helped install the sound system together there, so it was great to catch up with him. And this is my friend Anmol, who is a fellow writer on Quora. And we had never met before, so this was such a nice opportunity to get to meet up. And here's my wife. And this was on Valentine's Day. And as you can see in the background, if you look in the background, there's sunflowers. Not only are there sunflowers, but there are thousands and thousands of sunflowers. It's incredible. So this was a beautiful day that we had. Another beautiful picture. There's so many covered walkways, and this is one of them, and they have the flowers are hanging down. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. This is another flower I found hanging down with the morning light coming behind it. And in one of the domes that is there that this fellow built, there's a hole. There's a hole in the top of the dome. So when you look straight up, and it was at dusk, so the light was fading fast. And I stood in there, and it was dark inside the dome. But when I looked up, I saw just this luminous, like a moon. And those were tree branches, of course, overhead. But when I took the picture, it looked like it's actually a moon in the sky somewhere. And here's a picture of Rudy and myself having our interview. Again, that's on the Heartfulness Community channel. You can find that. And this is another photographic opportunity. This is at the Wellness Center. Beautiful wellness center they have there. And when I came out, I saw this with the shadows in the background on the wall. And it was just another great photographic opportunity. And here, I saved the best for last. So I've known Daji for 35, maybe even longer. So long, so many years. And he invited my wife and I and several others from the States to dinner one night at his house. And he was as always, a gracious host. And it was really nice that got a chance to have a picture with him. I was very happy about that. Okay. So anyway, I wanted to share those with you. And I can't say enough. If you are wanting to go to visit Kanha, yes, go, go. And there's two different sort of opportunities that I would say you have there. And the one is if you go during a Bandara or celebration, you got to prepare well in advance for that as far as securing a place to stay, because there's, 100,000 people can be there, 80,000, huge amounts of people. And that's a wonderful experience in itself. But then in between the Bandaras, it's very quiet there. And now there's plenty of people that are living there and visiting from all over the world, but that's a totally different and more introspective experience for you. And depending on what you're looking for and looking to get out of your trip, you want to consider when you would like to go. And also, I just want to say, if you're from outside of India, you don't go in the summer because it's too hot. So the time of year that you'd really want to go there would be um, ideal would be between October and mid-February. Between October and mid-February, the temperatures will be really great. And December, January is just splendid, wonderful. Okay, so before we start our meditation, I just want to say, from my own spiritual perspective, that I found this trip to be hugely transforming. I can't really give words to how I feel coming back. I really notice it. One, of course, there's the jet lag, but more so than that, such a profound depth and feeling of presence so strongly. I just feel that those were the blessings that were given during Lalaji's birthday. And I want you all to know that even if you weren't there, we all receive together, no matter where you are. You need to know that we all have received that. So, all right. And with that, I think we should meditate together. And let's get started. So everyone, please sit comfortably. Very gently close your eyes. Let's take a slow, deep breath in. And let it go. Very gently, bring your attention down to the area of the heart. And feel the area of the heart is softening. And the heart is becoming lighter. Now let's rest on the source of light, the source of lightness, already there in the heart. And simply feel the source is inviting you homeward. Let's stay with this thought. That's all. So let's take a moment and observe how we're feeling. And now let's have the thought that this peaceful state that we're feeling now is we're sharing that with everyone in the whole world. Just feel everyone's heart is becoming soft and peaceful. Okay, whenever you're ready, you can open your eyes. All right, everyone. So thank you for taking the time to all come together this morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are. And I will look forward to seeing you all next week. So thank you all very much. And as I always say, I like to say, stay with the heart. All the best, everybody.